We've got a brand new number one team in this week's Big 12 football power rankings. I will count them down from 16 to number one. Many of you been waiting for this, wondering, is it going to be your team? Some of you are going to be happy. Some of you, I think, will be a little bothered. But let's talk through it here on Heartland College Sports. All I ask from you is that you are subscribe to the channel. Just check right now. Hit the like button on the video as well. That helps us a lot as we get the show underway. A chaotic week 8 in the Big 12 means a chaotic top of the Big 12 football power rankings. The bottom, basically where they've been, but the top is where we see a lot of shakeup. We'll also do mailbag on the show, so get your questions in right now. All right, at number 16 in the power rankings, we'll count it down 16 to 1. Oklahoma State. No need to move the Pokes off of that final spot, same place they were last week. They are at number 16 after getting blown out by Cincinnati, 49-17. And man, not only was I bothered by the performance from Oklahoma State, but I put up a video on our Heartland College Sports X account, and it was a video of, I have it right here in front of me, an Oklahoma State player pathetically trying to make a tackle against a Cincinnati player on Saturday. Mordecai McDaniel. Oh, my goodness. I mean, he let a player walk right into the end zone in front of him. It's on the X account at Heartland_CS. But Oklahoma State doesn't just stink. There is, in some cases, from some key players, very little effort being given. At number 15, I've got West Virginia. If it wasn't for the Pokes, I would put WVU at 16, but Oklahoma State is just that bad right now. So they come into that final spot. They got blasted by UCF on Saturday. At number 14, I'm going with UCF. Now, I like where this UCF team is trending. I just can't justify putting them in front of anybody I've got them behind right now. But if there was ever like an underrated 14th ranked team in my power rankings, I would have UCF as that team. For whatever that's worth, do with it what you want. I'm just saying. Like the defense, offense coming together, got some weapons there. Good to have Taven back in the mix as well as quarterback. So I'm sneakily behind what this UCF program is doing. But for now, I've got them at 14 in the power rankings. At 13, Kansas, falling one slot. They were off this past week, more about what happened in front of them than anything that KU has done or has not done this season. But KU also just beat UCF. So, I couldn't have UCF jumping Kansas, at least not this soon after those two teams just played. At number 12, Arizona. They fall from number 10. I actually like UCF, like this Arizona team. They've had a couple of really tough back-to-back losses. They blow that lead against BYU in the fourth quarter. They've got Houston in a good spot on the road on Saturday. They lose that game with a walk-off field goal. So Arizona's making some strides. Yeah, they're 1-3 in league play, but they're a sneaky 1-3. And if you overlook Arizona, you will lose. But for now, I've got them at number 12. Number 11, the Baylor Bears, falling down from number 8 in the power rankings this week. That's where I've got Baylor. And listen, rivalry game, and they're basically down 3 touchdowns until we got the garbage time in this one. So I'm putting them at number 11 this week. At number 10, I've got the Iowa State Cyclones. They had a bye as well, down one spot. Hopefully some time to get healthy. They've been busy. Overseas trip, big rivalry game, couple of tough road games at Cincinnati and Colorado. They needed a break at Iowa State. They got it. Now, their injuries, especially in that secondary, are not getting fixed overnight. The issues there don't get fixed with a bye week. But if nothing else, it got this team some rest, which it desperately needed. At number 9, Colorado, sitting there at number 9. They were 8 last week, also on a bye. They're on the upswing. They beat Iowa State, of course, before the bye. And you're seeing this team improve in recent weeks. They might be a team that gets overlooked. People don't pay a lot of attention to. And then they end up pulling off a couple of upsets over these next few weeks of the season. Just something to watch out for as well. At number 8, Kansas State, down from number 6 on a bye week as well. And I just shifted them down 2 spots because of what happened in front of them. Yes, they've got KU this weekend. And, we'll see. Can they win a 17th straight? Maybe I'll answer that one coming up in the mailbag part of the show. Some of you are asking me already about my Sunflower Showdown pick. At number 7, Houston up from 11. The Cougars move up after a very solid walk-off win against Arizona. Arizona's better than its record indicates after 2 straight tough losses, and Houston's offense showed that wrinkle with Connor Wigman in the running game that we really haven't seen since the Colorado game almost a month ago now. It gives the offense a different look. It is valuable for this Houston offense, and I want to see more of that. Houston is at number 7. At number 6, TCU up 1 slot after bouncing back from their loss to Kansas State to beat Baylor in dominant fashion on Saturday in Fort Worth. Josh Hoover was solid. The running game finally got going with Kavorian Barnes, and I still have questions about the defense. They can be too sloppy at times, but there is talent there to compete atop the Big 12. So TCU bouncing up a couple of spots, big rivalry win against this Baylor team. I'll take them at number 6. At number 5, moving down 2 spots, is Utah. They were 3. They are now 5. They shot themselves in the foot a couple of times in the game against BYU. But the reality is they got pushed around in the trenches. And Devin Dampier was not great at all against an elite defense. And now I question whether or not Dampier is a quarterback who can win big at the Power 4 level. I think that's a fair conversation to have right now after what we saw on Saturday in that game for the Utah Utes. At number 4, the Texas Tech Red Raiders. They are out of the top spot for the first time in over a month. They lost their first game of the year on Saturday against Arizona State. And while they made the comeback and they nearly won the game, it was not good enough. Tech looked out of sorts, especially on offense in that first half in particular. The Red Raiders still have their goals in front of them. They can win the Big 12 and get to a college football playoff. But if the season ended today, Texas Tech is not playing for a Big 12 championship. And for all the hype, that's the reality and where it stands right now. Let's go to the top 3 of the power rankings. We've got Arizona State up from number 5 to number 3 this week after ending Texas Tech's undefeated season on Saturday night in Tempe. Sam Leavitt was back. He proved to be the most valuable quarterback in the Big 12 this season, an electric performance, and he led the Sun Devils to the upset. And the defense was tremendous against a Tech offense that had spent most of the season doing whatever it wanted to do. Arizona State is number 3. At number 2, one of the few teams staying in the same slot as last week, the Cincinnati Bearcats. They went to Stillwater. They crushed Oklahoma State by 32. They are bowl eligible for the first time since joining the Big 12. And this team continues to showcase, I would say, the most underrated offense in the league with a bend but don't break approach on defense. And it's working. Now, the schedule gets tough from here on out, but it is working thus far for Cincinnati. And I've got them at number 2 this week, which means at number 1 in my Big 12 football power rankings for week 9, the BYU Cougars are in the top spot, up from number 4 after beating Utah at home in the Holy War, dominating the Utes in the trenches, something I did not see coming. And with the win, the Cougars are now 7-0. And Bear Bachmeier continues to impress more and more every single week. This team is legit. It can make a college football playoff. And if they can get there with that defense and that special teams and those weapons and this true freshman quarterback who continues to develop week by week, you say, why not? Why not make a little noise come December and January? Just saying. But BYU is number 1 in the power rankings this week. So I'll Let me run down my Big 12 football power rankings heading into week 9, 1 through 16. BYU is in the top spot. Cincinnati, number 2. Arizona State is 3. Texas Tech at number 4. At number 5, it's Utah. Number 6, TCU. Number 7, Houston. At number 8, it's Kansas State, followed by Colorado at number 9. Iowa State is 10. Baylor is 11. Number 12 is Arizona. 13 is Kansas. 14, I've got UCF. 15, the West Virginia Mountaineers. And in that final spot for the Big 12 football power rankings this week, I've got the Oklahoma State Cowboys. There you have it. I'm Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. Make sure you are subscribed to our channel right now on YouTube and also on the podcast. We appreciate you being here as a part of the show. Let's do some mailbag questions. What do you say? All right, let's get to that. I've got questions from you on Facebook. I also have them on the chat right now. So let's do it. Let's have some fun. All right. Let me get to some of your questions here, see what we've got. Let's see here. All right. This is from Connor. Will there be a rematch between Texas Tech and Arizona State if both teams win out? If so, who wins it? Well, now we're getting into the tiebreakers and the hypotheticals. And to be honest, Connor, I'm not there yet. I got to get to November before we start doing the hypotheticals around who makes the Big 12 championship game. I just can't get myself to that point. Now, you might feel differently. That's cool. There's a link that people are sharing on our forums at heartlandcollegesports.com that is getting a lot of attention and is something that obviously, people want to know about right now. So go to our forums. They're free. Sign up at heartlandcollegesports.com. Click on the forums tab. It's all good. So if you want to do it, go ahead. I don't start doing all the crazy tiebreaker stuff until we get to at least, November 1. That's just where I'm at. But you look at the standings right now, Tech and Arizona State are both 3-1. BYU and Cincinnati are obviously 4-0. So if Tech and Arizona State win out, just looking at their schedules, Tech will have a win over BYU, so they will have the tiebreaker there. And Arizona State does not have to play Cincinnati. And Texas Tech does not have to play Cincinnati. So to answer your question, the long and short of it is no. If they win out, they do not necessarily get a rematch because it depends what happens with Cincinnati. And that's really the linchpin to all this. So we have to wait and see how that plays out here going forward. All right. What else? Fire away on those. Okay. Stan asks this on Facebook. How many losses will the Big 12 champion have? That is a great question. And I'll answer it this way. As somebody who took Texas Tech in the preseason to win the Big 12, who still believes Texas Tech can win the Big 12, I will answer that by saying 1 loss. Because I am not moving off of my preseason prediction of Texas Tech winning the Big 12 conference. So that's my answer to the question. 1 loss, because I still think that Texas Tech has the horses and has the talent to get this thing done and win this conference. Brian pops on Facebook. Who do you think will be playing in Arlington for the Big 12 championship? Well, I can't say I'm going to stick with my original prediction of Texas Tech and Utah. I can't go with Utah right now because, they're sitting there in conference play at 2-2. If they were 3-1, I'd say I'm sticking with my original prediction. But here's what's interesting. Texas Tech plays BYU later in the season. So right there, it's like, okay, if they play each other, but Cincinnati wins out, if I think Tech wins that game, then it's Tech-Cincinnati. Cincinnati is taking on Baylor. They go to Utah. They play Arizona. They play BYU. And then they play TCU. Cincinnati's schedule gets a lot tougher. I see a couple of losses here for Cincinnati. So if you're a BYU fan and you say, even if we trip up, only against Texas Tech, although they got to go to Iowa State, always a tough place to play. They go to Texas Tech. TCU's not going to be a cakewalk. They go to Cincinnati. They play home against UCF. Could they lose 2 of those games? They could. I'm not suggesting that they will, but I really don't think anyone gets through the Big 12 season undefeated. I don't think anyone is walking into a Big 12 conference championship game with a 9-0 record in this conference. And that means either BYU or Cincinnati. I don't believe that's happening for either of those teams. Not a knock on them. I just think that in this day and age of college football, you're going to slip up, you're going to have a bad week, and you're going to have a loss on the schedule. It's just a question of where. And BYU has a tough slate down the stretch here. Cincinnati has a tough road down the stretch here. So you look at this and you say to yourself, okay, who's it going to be? I mean, gun to my head right now, I'll still lean in and say Texas Tech taking on BYU. Because at this point in time, I'm looking at this Texas Tech team, and I love them. You guys know that. Bad game last week, but I love them top to bottom. And BYU continues to, no matter what you think, get better every week. They just owned Utah in the trenches. They've got a true freshman quarterback that is gaining confidence every single week. So the key here for BYU, though, is that they do play Texas Tech. So if you're going to lose a game, and I'm not saying they have to, but if you're going to lose a game, that's the one that you'd ideally want to lose on the road. But if you win that game, then Texas Tech's in a tough spot because they'll have at least 2 losses. And then it's like, well, I need Cincinnati to lose a couple of games, and then I got to figure out the tiebreakers after that. So then it gets real hairy. It gets real messy after that. So, but right now I will say Texas Tech and BYU at the top. What else? Let me see if I got anything good on Facebook. Then we'll get to your live chats. Roy asks, who is the worst team in the Big 12 right now? It's Oklahoma State. I mean, West Virginia's bad. Oklahoma State's really bad, and the effort is suspect at best, which is a deadly combo. Oklahoma State's terrible. All right. What else? Here we go. On YouTube, stepping away from the state of Kansas. How big to the Big 12 is the Sunflower Showdown? Great question. And the answer is not that big. And I say this as a Kansas resident. But no one cares outside of the state of Kansas. I know they want to build it up as a rivalry, and I hope one day it can be one. But it's not Cyhawk. It's not Bedlam. It's not the border war. Like, all the states surrounding it have bigger rivalry games, just because in part the teams have been better. But this game just doesn't mean anything to anyone outside of Kansas. It doesn't. So I'm not saying that because I'm trying to burst anyone's bubble. It's just, I mean, you just look around the states that are near Kansas, and every other in-state Power 4 rivalry game is bigger. And, you know, would KU fans say they'd rather beat K-State or beat Mizzou? I know that Mizzou's gone. They're not in the Big 12 anymore, but it can't be a huge game regionally or around the country if it's not even potentially the biggest rival for at least one of the two teams. Right? Fair? What else? What do we have here? Pete, with Arizona State's win against Texas Tech, is this the best that we'll see out of ASU? Is this their peak? Well, I'll answer that by saying I hope not. We finally saw Arizona State play a complete game. We really hadn't seen it this season. They've had some injuries. They've had some letdowns. Mississippi State loss was bad. Baylor game, not pretty. TCU, comeback, down 17-zip. Utah, ugly. I hope not. Arizona State being really good is, I think, really good for the Big 12. They have Houston coming up this weekend. That's a sneaky good game. And then you go to Iowa State, West Virginia, Colorado, Arizona. The schedule definitely lightens up on the back end here. So we might have just not seen the best of Arizona State because the schedule might get a lot better for them too, which you got to admit, that's part of the conversation here. But no, I think that's the best we'll see out of them because that's by far the best team they've got on the schedule going forward. But I don't think that Arizona State's going to go back to these mediocre, coin flip games that they've been playing in. I'm thinking that game can definitely turn around the season for the Sun Devils. What else on the mailbag? A lot of people ripping Dave Aranda, but there's really no question around it. Okay, here's a question. All right, here we go on Dave Aranda. Samuel, Pete, what record do you think Dave Aranda would have to keep his job? Great question there, Samuel. Let's answer it here on Heartland College Sports. So Baylor is 4-3. They are 2-2 in league play. They go to Cincinnati this weekend. Then UCF, Utah, Arizona, Houston. So he's got to get 2 wins to be bowl eligible. And I feel like he's got that on this schedule. I wouldn't guarantee it. I mean, even UCF's getting better. But let's say the UCF game's a win for Baylor. Let's just say that's a win, although it might be a 51-48 game. Let's say it's a win. If he loses every other game, it's 5-7. So that's where Dave Aranda is going to be at. If he doesn't make a bowl game, he may not make it the next year. If he makes a bowl game, I believe he gets 1 more year, but the seat's going to be red hot. And it should be red hot. But if he does not make a bowl game, meaning he only wins 1 of these next 5 games and goes 1-4 down the stretch and finishes 5-7, I could see Baylor just pulling the plug because it's too much of the same old. But the outside factors should play a role here. Look at all the openings, and who knows what's to come already. Just look around the landscape of college football. Who is Baylor hiring? If you're firing Dave Aranda, and I'm not saying you shouldn't if you go 1-4 down the stretch, but who are you hiring? That has to be part of the calculation and part of the equation, and it rarely gets talked enough about by fans in this, at least in realistic terms, right? Like, I'm sure there will be a faction of fans that would want to get Art Briles back. That's been going on for 10 years. I know them. They're good people, but they're living in a fantasy land. So then it's like, where are we going here? Are we plucking a hot coordinator? Are we going for a G5 coach? Are we going for a guy who knows Texas? Like, what's the play? What's the move? Are we trying to find our Joe McGuire? Like, what are we doing? So I like Dave Aranda. He's a good man. But if this team with these preseason expectations misses a bowl game, I could not blame Baylor at that point for pulling the plug and just saying, no matter what, we've got to turn over this leaf. We've got to start fresh. We need something new. There was too much talent here. And also because the defense has been the Achilles heel of this team, and that is Dave Aranda's bread and butter. Like, if he was playing or leading a team with a great defense and he just couldn't figure out the offense, you'd say, okay, let's spend some money in the portal. Let's get the right guy on that side of the ball and let's figure it out. But Dave Aranda is a defensive guy, and the defense blows. So that's why it's so problematic right now for him as well. But that would be my answer to your question, Samuel. Dave Aranda has to go 5-7 to not keep his job. 6-6 bowl game, he keeps it. I'm Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. Make sure you are subscribed right now to the show. Bracket Cat, Pete, does KU finally break the streak this year, the 16-game losing streak to K-State? I will give you an official prediction in the Week 9 preview show that we will drop on Wednesday. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss it. But I will answer that question because I'm that kind of guy. All right? I'll answer it right now because I don't want to make you wait. But I need you to come back for the breakdown. That's why I've got to have you subscribed. Will KU break the streak? One word. No. We good? All right. Connor, should Texas Tech rest starters this week against Oklahoma State to prepare for K-State? No. No. Coming off a loss? No. Get to the second half. If you're up, it's a 38-point spread. If you're up 4 scores in the second half of the third quarter, all right. No, you got to play the game. I'm not resting any starters. Not coming off a loss. No way, no how. Get out there, get a lead, get some mojo back, get confident, and get to work. And then do what the Chiefs did against the Raiders the other day. They pulled the starters with like a minute left in the third quarter. I'm fine with that. Let's see some of your other questions. Ethan says, how big of a factor is Baron Morton's health in Tech winning the Big 12? A week ago, I would have said not that big of a factor. I'm a big Will Hammond fan, but Will did not have a good game the other night against Arizona State. Finally got it going in the fourth quarter. I know the coaching staff loved what they saw in the fourth quarter. Who would not have loved what they saw in the fourth quarter from Will Hammond? But it took him a while to get going, to be totally honest. And that was surprising to me. I still think that Will Hammond can lead this team to a Big 12 championship game if he has to. So if Tech doesn't get there, I'm not going to blame it on the quarterback when he's got millions of dollars of pieces around him and he's the backup. I really can't do that. So I don't think it ultimately is the biggest factor. If they don't get there, it will be for a multitude of reasons, not simply because Baron Morton couldn't stay healthy. Trailer for Baylor. That sounds pretty good. Jeff Trailer. Where's he at? UTSA, right? If Tech wins the Big 12 and goes 12-1, where do you see him in the playoffs? What rank? We're getting ahead of ourselves here, but you're asking me the question. I'll answer it. They're seeding 1 through 12. At that point, I would say Tech is somewhere around 7, 6, 7, somewhere in there. So they'd get one home game in the college football playoff, which would be wild, but no tortillas. Don't ask about. Okay. All right. All right. Someone asked about the tortillas. Got it on Facebook here, Pete. What do you make of the Big 12 saying the Texas Tech, no more tortillas, fining them 15-yard penalties, and Tech announcing on Monday that they are going to start keeping a very close eye on tortilla tossing, and they have banned it. I believe it is ridiculous. And I said this last week on the show. I don't understand why the Big 12 is going down this road. This became an issue because KU, who I like, I've got no beef with KU. I'm 30 minutes down the road from Lawrence, okay? No beef whatsoever. But when you got coaches dropping pocket knives out of their pockets, and then the head coach confronts the other coach and says, hey, you guys are throwing pocket knives at us, and it turns out it was done by a KU assistant. It's like, what are we doing here? And the Big 12, instead of just being like, okay, guys, let's talk about this thing behind closed doors, you're taking away the tradition, decades-long tradition from Texas Tech. Now, I will say something. I had a parent of a Big 12 player reach out to me and say, my kid, not the other night, this was a couple of years back, said my kid was hit with a tortilla that had a battery wrapped inside of it. And that they believe that has happened more frequently than people know, where fans have wrapped things inside of the tortillas and chucked them at the opposing players. This was the opinion of a former Big 12 player's parents who reached out to me personally and obviously does not want to be named. I can't speak to that. I do know this. If thousands of tortillas are tossed at every game, and it's been going on for decades, I do not deny that there has been a knucklehead or two over the years who has done something very stupid and, bordering on obviously illegal. But do you take away the tradition because of that? That's the question, especially in the wake of what happened a couple of weeks ago in that KU game. Is that the time to do it? And what are you going to do if an opposing team's fans show up and start tossing tortillas? What if they, dare I say, you may say this is too conspiratorial, what if they, dare I say, go out there and start doing things like, oh, I don't know, wearing Texas Tech gear, tossing tortillas, and getting the Red Raiders penalized 15 yards. What do you do then? This is college football. You think that's beyond a college football fan? To wear the other team's gear, show up, sneak in tortillas, start throwing them in the air and throwing them at people to try to help their team win? You think that's impossible? You have not been around college football long enough if you think that's impossible. Okay? So right there, I've just got a lot of questions on how you enforce any of this. I mean, the refs can barely get a first down call right. They're missing holding penalties all over the place. They're going to figure out who's throwing tortillas in the stands, if he's a Tech fan or a non-Tech fan, if he's undercover as the fan of the other team. I mean, this is crazy. You just can't put this on the refs. What are you going to do? You got to have opposing teams' fans throwing tortillas over the stadium from outside. They're going to be droning in tortillas. That's what I would do if I was, a fan of Oklahoma State, although Oklahoma State could drone in tortillas all day. They could give Tech 15-yard penalties in every drive, and it wouldn't make a difference. They'd still beat Oklahoma State. But you get the point, right? It's just, how do you legislate any of this? You can't. Now, Kirby Hokut's doing what he's got to do. Like, guys, knock it off. We got to play by the rules here. But the whole thing is so freaking ridiculous and absurd. And it's just not based in reality. And I don't get why the Big 12 is going down this route. I really don't. Pete, we're going to need investigators doing tortilla ballistics, calculating velocities and trajectories. Yeah, Big 12 is going to hire, NASA engineers to figure this stuff out. It's going to be a big part of the Big 12's budget going forward. There'll be tortilla forensic scientists, on staff for the Big 12. Can't get a halfway decent ref, but don't worry. We got the forensic tortilla scientists on the scene in Lubbock. What are we doing here? Oh, my goodness, please. It's just too much. And with that, we're going to put a bow on this show. Thank you, guys. Please make sure you are subscribed right now to the channel at Heartland College Sports. I am Pete Mundo. We cover the Big 12. We appreciate you, and we will talk to you soon at heartlandcollegesports.com. Have a great day.